I want to recognize and be thankful to live in the unceded traditional territory of the Semiahmoo, Katsi, and Kwantlen First Nation. I'd like to thank the Surrey Muse for the honor and privilege of speaking on behalf of my poetry and having this venue to speak on. Although I hope to address you in person at the Surrey Public Library, because of COVID and restrictions on the pandemic, Zoom seems like an eventuality for the rest of all of us for at least a few more months, if not a year. So here it goes. I'm going to read from my books entitled Gateway to Obscurity, my first book, published in 2017, and my most recent book, Strength and Vulnerability. Now, a little bit of history behind Gateway to Obscurity. I like to write a lot of emotional poetry about life and how it affects us in our day-to-day life. And I write a lot of spur-of-the-moment poetry on scraps of paper. So one day my wife got sick of finding scraps of paper all over the house, and she said, make a book out of it. So that's how we came about with Gateway to Obscurity. So it can be purchased on Amazon Books as well as Google Books and Indigo for $12.99. So if you're interested, after the broadcast, by all means, please purchase the book. So without further ado, I'd like to read my first poem from Gateway to Obscurity, which is entitled A Mother's Love. Now, a little bit of background on this poem. It was originally written as a Mother's Day gift, and since then I've revised it, and it's a recognition of the love and support I received from growing up from my mother. It's a poem especially dedicated to the bond mothers share with their children. So, the poem, A Mother's Love. I thank you so much for bringing me forth in life, nurturing me through gestation, ensuring my eventual birth. In childhood, I suckled your breasts, gaining strength and further development. Within your arms, I found love and comfort from loneliness. You taught me understanding and encouraged my dreams. When I was ill or injured, you aided in my recovery. During times of family squabbling, you sheltered me from the storm. Acting on my behalf, you helped keep the family intact. At times would I abuse your love, subjecting it to teenage rage. Terrible names I called you, torturing you in awful ways. How fortunate to have you as a mother, with all the troubles I put you through. I know I don't say it often enough, but you're my best friend in the world. The next poem I'd like to read to you is entitled Parental Expectations. And a little bit of background on this poem. Growing up as parents expect the best from their children. Failure is something seldom understood. Rather, it is an excuse for punishment. Getting 75% of the questions right? Well, why did you get 25% wrong? Being the only son, not only in my family, but in the entire family, meant I carried the name, that I was expected to have a son, that I should inherit my father's business, that I should be a success at everything I did, that I should marry and have children, that despite my creativity in writing and art, I should get a real job, be a mechanic, a carpenter, or a truck driver. The poem is entitled Parental Expectations, and it goes like this. Conflicts and a lack of consultation alienate each generation. Guilt and manipulation, upholding productivity, managing the family business. Artistic merit, belittled as frivolous and childish. Abandoned dreams inflict teenage regret. Necessary responsibilities overshadow another's pursuits. Unspoken regrets enforce a stringent agenda. Parental expectations ignite rifts between family members. academic challenges to an imaginative mind, rules and regulations over creativity, talented behavior squandered beneath a father's ambitions, hardship and anger drive a wedge between father and son, time and reflection help to overcome several roadblocks. And the most cherished poem that I wrote is entitled Passing, and a little bit of background on that. Though my father had passed away several months before I wrote this poem, it is a difficult expression of loss. Many people wondered why I did not grieve as much as they did, nor that I did not take the leadership role as his son. I saw it from a different perspective, of a strong man who suddenly was no longer the physical force he once was, a man who was totally dependent upon others. To me, his death was a release from the weakness he felt being powerless. It is a poem that haunted me in the wee hours of morning and insisted on being written that day, even though it was 3 a.m. That day, we scattered his ashes at a favorite fishing spot with just the immediate family. And these were the words that I felt best gave us both peace. Passing, and this is how it goes. Upon these fertile waters, we cast your ashes this day. A father, a son, a brother, a devoted husband. May you find peace and tranquility in life's final journey. Within nature's greatest symphony, each wave and ripple calms the pain. Though no longer among us, your memories will last. A child, a man, a mentor, and someone special. One day we will join you once more. Our family will then be complete. Till then, we say goodbye as your spirit is set free. And my latest book, entitled Strength and Vulnerability, also available at Google Books and Indigo and Amazon Books for $15.99. A little bit of background on it is it tells about my volunteer work with Night Shift Ministries, helping the street people living in Wally, and volunteering not only to help serve food, but also give out clothing and show the love and compassion of Christ, which in the last couple of years I've journeyed towards Christianity, had my baptism in September, and have found the love and compassion that I so sought after as a child and as a young man, and now have in my soul in the form of Jesus Christ and in the words of the Bible. So the book is entitled Strength and Vulnerability, and the first poem I'd like to read to you tonight is entitled Lighthouse, and it is dedicated to Mary Ann Connor, who founded Night Shift Ministries many years ago on the streets of Wally, and they serve the people living on the streets 365 days a year, whether it's sun, rain, snow, or storm. Not only do they serve food, but also offer compassion and love of Jesus Christ, and clothing, and also seek out shelter. So the poem is entitled Lighthouse, and this is how it goes. Night shift permeates darkness with everlasting hope. Love and dedication emphasized by compassion. Abandoned souls seeking direction find sanctuary. Young and old, men and women, struggling to survive against the hostility. Shunned victims garner love. Lighthouse. Faraway beacons guide wayward souls. Stopgap measures to a permanent solution. A fragile possibility surrounded by conflict. Dedicated helpers struggle to make a lasting difference. Essentials utilized effectively spark growing optimism. flashes of encouragement substantiate a shift. And the next poem from Strength and Vulnerability is entitled Give Us Grace. And this poem is dedicated to Grace Edge, a person who overcame her own demons, a person whose story reflects so many others still trapped, whether it be addiction, mental illness, poverty. There is hope in the love of Jesus Christ. And thankfully, Grace has found that and is now living a life with God in Vancouver, free of addiction and poverty. So the poem is entitled Give Us Grace. Flickering sparks animate a depleted soul. Societal obligations neglected by the majority. Victimized innocence ravaged by abuse. Hostile behavior inflicts personal harm. Symbolic weaknesses corrupted by drugs. Inward reflection provides for tranquility. Nurturing angels bring about peace. Harmonious fulfillment deepens one's resolution. Overall commitment allows a conclusion. And the last poem I'd like to read from Strength and Vulnerability just happens to be entitled Strength and Vulnerability. As humans, we are composed of strengths and vulnerabilities. We allow ourselves to utilize these tools, others can be helped. Together, we can work towards a greater humanity by realizing we have both of these. Strength and vulnerability, a clash between humanity, swimming with insanity, searching for tranquility. A valiant hero, a hapless victim, striving to exist. Compassion and torture, a society that is fractured, preyed upon by vultures, embroiled in misadventure, entangled within complications, swarmed by false implications, a subject of exploitations and repeated denunciations, courage above adversity, sacrificing one's safety for the benefit of others, dramatic outspokenness against forces of hostility and armies of ruthlessness, intervening on behalf of those less fortunate, building bridges between opposing forces, weakened by abuse, imprisoned by turmoil, there seems no escape. An angry soul crippled by aggression, a relentless addiction, inspired with devotion to make a contribution, overwhelmed by passion to alter archaic legislation, punishment and righteousness, a momentum of selflessness, defiant to ruthlessness, others may passively witness, a merciful Savior and a distraught sinner, seeking ultimately to validity. And finally, I'd like to read some poems from an upcoming manuscript entitled 72, which was written during last year's and this year's COVID. So it helped me. It was a lot of coping with the pandemic and everything shutting down, and the pain and the anguish and the torture of being just trapped. So this is recounting my spiritual journey towards Christianity that happened within the last 2 years, with my highlight being my baptism in September. And I'd just like to read the first poem entitled Spiritual Rebirth. Immersed in collective celebration, elevates my every emotion, propelled into revelation towards acceptance of Christ. Unknown sensations fulfill my emptiness, undeniable gratitude toward spiritual light. Invigorated energy pulses through me, unburdened from demons of ignorance, conscious of reality and ignited belief, magnified in purpose, serving Christ's covenant, a newborn innocent within God's family, overwhelmed with love of the Almighty, filled with courage to pray over others, unafraid of damnation from wicked people, valiantly steadfast in my righteous cause, fortified with wisdom and abundant love for the multitude of lost souls. Total transformation opens many possibilities. Wondrous enlightenment boosts creative ability. Imaginative energy exemplifies holiness. Renewal of positive values that edify a greater good. Overcome with euphoria to mediate prophecies. And the next poem is entitled Nourishing Words, and is what I found as reading Bible, and the words fill me with wisdom and clarity as to what being a Christian is all about, and also the sermons that I hear in church build me up and show me that I am a truly person worthy of God's presence. So the poem is titled Nourishing Words. Uplifting phrases bring ideal thoughts of a life filled with purpose, renewal of soulful intent towards meaning of inspired notes. Spiritual wisdom and thoughts develop a sense of charity. Captivating verses enrich humble dreams to a devotion of gratitude. Motivation toward service, beneficial, rewarding to God's glory. Divine aspirations and goals, empowering the Messiah's love. Solemn passages establish a foundation of a plan with good intentions. Reason develops perseverance, destined for a unified mountain course. Enlightenment ignites the cause behind the prophecies yet to come. Nourishing words replenish the senses into a magnificent splendor. Promises of heavenly salvation transcends any doubt. Joyful harmony. And my last poem, entitled A Song of Praise, is what I feel when I attend church in person, and I feel the songs lift me up and carry me, and the sermons that are build up and encourage us that God truly loves us and He has compassion for us, and we should share that with others. So the poem is entitled A Song of Praise. Heavenly thoughts intensify and make exuberance of the Holy Spirit's profound wisdom, layered in a subsequent chorus, fulfills a sense of enlightenment. Righteous celebration strikes a definitive chord that fully resonates, increasing momentum. Solitary devotion emphasizes an underlying meaning of purpose, aligning my focus. A current of tranquility defines a familiar course. Echoes of harmony solidify the Christ presence. Gospel narration infuses characteristics, morality, and understanding of biblical text. Artistic subtlety combined with emotions. Manifest transparency, tangled in the obscure. Signified by the chorus in a harmonious union. Conclusive notations dispel any temporary distractions. That God is the answer to all possible prayers. Thank you for allowing me to recite some of my poetry. And again, the books are called Strength and Vulnerability and Gateway to Obscurity. Thank you and good evening.